window, or yeah, we go a bit closer to the window.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, perfect.
Good afternoon.
Now here we are.
Hello.
This is the two Hogans, Tim and Tel.
I tell you, we're going on tours of comedy out. How are you, lads?
Right, fellas.
All right. How are you guys, man?
Let me see if we can turn it that way. No. This is having a laugh. You all right, Des?
Mate. Hello,
Where you
fella.
been?
Hello, fellas. I'm good.
Very good.
Hi, Glenwyn.
Welcome.
Right,
Just hang on. We are live. Just hang on.
Very good.
We are live. You see what's happening on Guna Matters. The guys are very, very excited. Welcome to Altal. Welcome to Tim Tal.
Very good.
Good man.
Welcome to Des. Guys, it's a blessing to have you on my show. It's a good one. I want to say, and I want to introduce you properly, but after this music intro.
No.
Welcome back. Right, guys. Sorry, I had to go live. But I'm really honored to have the original Godfather with us. He's on the left on the right hand side on your screen, in the bottom corner with the glasses. Terry Hogan, welcome. How are you, man?
I'm good. You know, we're in the west of Ireland, so I don't know where people are watching this. If you're in South Africa or South Australia or the South Antarctic, we're in the west of Ireland in a little place called County Clare, and we've just watched the match. We're feeling a bit sick about it, but never mind. It's good to see Glenwyn. It's good to see Des over there, the enforcer, and it'll be good to chat about some of the new players as well today.
Great stuff.
Tim?
Yeah, Tim Hogan. I'm a friend of Terry's, and look, I was obviously myself and Glenwyn have been on before on a different program, and look, it was a match. Look, I think we were on the back foot. I think Terry has a Cockney phrase for us. I'll give it a few minutes, but yeah, look, I think the results really perfected the performance. Ultimately, attacking wise, we look well, but look, we'll discuss it further in a minute. But yeah, that's me. I'm from the west of Ireland, a friend of Terry's, and glad to be on the show.
Great stuff. Welcome, Des. He's no stranger to the show. Des, welcome to you, my man.
Yeah, this isn't my first rodeo. I just want to say hello to my Celtic brothers in County Clare. Hope you're both well. Hope you're both keeping well and safe. And Glenwyn, always a pleasure. Thank you for having me on. And I've got plenty to say about, even though it's a friendly, I've got plenty to say about this game and plenty to say about the Arsenal team. And this has made my day being on with you guys, because I've missed you guys. I've missed you guys deeply. Honestly, I have. And I'm looking forward to this, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So thanks a lot, Glenwyn.
Brilliant.
That's great stuff. Right, before we go any further, let's hit the like, smash the subscribe, and ring the bell for all the notifications on Guna Matters. And if you want to get hold of me, you can hit me up on gunamatters@gmail.com. If you want to get involved with this channel, please do so, and also make a small contribution of only 10 Rand to Guna Matters, so we can get the equipment that we need to stay on air. Now, 10 Rand in a pound is about what? The pound to rand is about almost 22 Rand a pound. So yeah, that is almost 100 pounds.
Yeah,
That's a lot. So I don't expect you guys to make any contributions, but 10 Rand is quite a little amount of money. Let's get straight into it, guys. I mean, yeah, I've got two players. Mount didn't play, unfortunately. But the score line, it's more of the focus point. I would put 2 in brackets because the ball did cross the line, as the replays are saying. So let's give the visitors first chance. Tim, in your opinion?
Well, firstly, look, as Des highlighted there, look, football is back. My secretary can literally hear a 16-year-old kicking a ball outside the wall here. So, you know, it's good. It's great to have football back. It gets people enthusiastic about it. Obviously, transfers and speculation are great for some people, but most other people want to see matches. Now, my initial thoughts on the game, and ultimately, I would pay very little heed to the last 15, 20 minutes. That stage there was so many subs on, but really for the first 70, we were on the back foot. We looked all right, maybe going forward, but defensively we were terrible. And the goal, like if the Keystone Cops run out of material, they could definitely use it because everyone was running backwards. And actually, I said to Terry, I said a great pass, and then actually we saw the replay. A blind man could have passed it. My God, he'd an acre of ground to get the ball into, and they finished it well. And we were very lucky that, late on, they would. Remember, it was 1-on-1 with Leno, and your man went messing up. Actually, it wasn't even 1-on-1 with Leno. It was 1-on-1 with empty nets, and he still missed it. So look, I think the score reflected the play and reflected the right team won. Ultimately, going forward, we looked reasonable, looked okay. At the back, we looked very bad. Now, your man, the new signing, looked well when he came in the own. Came in the centre, he looked okay. Bellerin came on, and to be honest, I'm thinking maybe time is ticking away there, and he could be coming in. They're my initial thoughts anyway. Yeah. So I'll patch on to Terry.
Well, you know, it's a pre-season match. Obviously Arteta's trying things out, but I've got to be honest. I don't want to be doom and gloom man, but currently it's not looking good. After their goal went in, when our new centre-back was on the pitch, Ben White, he actually remonstrated. And there was one bit where Leno played the ball to Ben White when he was being, hunted down. Literally, a Chelsea attacker was half a yard from him. And he remonstrated to sort of Leno, "What'd you pass to me there for?" So I'm afraid Leno's days are, in my opinion, are numbered. He even went off, which I was a bit unhappy about, having a chat with Kai Havertz. They're both Germans, and they were laughing and joking. And I'm thinking, hang on, it may be a friendly match, but you want to win it. Don't go into it thinking it's just a kickabout. People have paid good money to go and watch the match. They've waited all summer for it, and you're treating it as if it's not that important. And I'll give you a word that the Cockneys use. I think I don't know where it comes from, but when you get beaten the way we were beaten the way we were beaten this afternoon, the Cockneys call it a larrapin. We got a larrapin.
What does that mean? What does that mean in layman's terms?
A beating. We got a beating.
We got a hammer. We got hammered.
Yeah. A spanking, I think.
A spanking.
To use the old Catholic educational words, a good old-fashioned spanking. Spare the rod, spoil the child. That was definitely the old mantra as they were leaving. Chelsea left the dressing room today.
Yeah.
But look, ultimately, I wouldn't be too hard. I would see, and I think White. What do we see? We saw him for a half an hour, and for a half, and for a good part of that half, he was a bit chaotic with all the subs. But at times he looked okay. He looks like a good player. And ultimately last year we had Holding, Gabriel, Mari, my good old friend. How could I forget him? David Luiz. They were all there, and it never looked solid. Tierney was our defence last year. He was left. He was right. He was holding the whole together. But if White could come in, could steady up, could improve our defence. Leno is as the saying goes, he was despicably average. That's the phrase. And that seems to be his mantra. But no, we're not. But if we had a good defence going forward, and actually, I'm stealing Terry thunder here now on this point. But Terry made a great point for the goal when we were watching it. That Partey lost it, and next thing there was no recovery. So there was no recovery. He wasn't coming back. And that to me is a thing of concern. I would be concerned about that if we lose possession, that our two kind of defensive or holding midfielders, whatever phrase you want to use, can't get back, then you're leaving us very exposed.
Yeah, that first goal, Partey, I know that Arsenal don't seem to have worked out. Is he a CDM? Is he a box to box? And he was by the D outside the Chelsea penalty area, lost the ball. And although he looked good in the Spanish league, the whole point of the EPL, we were talking about it during the match, Tim and myself, you need pace. You need pace to burn, and he was nowhere was he getting back. And there was a massive hole. And honestly, the Chelsea guys, there were two of them, and they were in acres of space, absolute acres. So, honestly, if you were a defensive coach, you'd be saying something went wrong there. You can't push all your forwards up and have nobody keeping a shield, keeping the back line sorted out. It was the sort of thing you'd show people how not to defend.
Yeah.
It was like you could put that one up and say, "This is how you don't do it, lads."
And now, sorry, Des. Now I'll let you in a second. But the worst of it is they came down the left wing and it looked, jeepers, it was like going back to the Euros. Oh, a beautiful pass. Sure, a beautiful pass. Mother divine, he could have freaking sat down, had a cup of tea, and then passed. So we were coming back. No one looked. And when you're playing a high line defense, there has to be coordination. There has to be symmetry between the players, because you must remember it's clip edge stuff that if you were given all this experience, and now the one thing I will say, I was trying to say this even after the match, is that when push comes to shove next March, when the Premier League is being decided, you get a lot of people who would say Chelsea are going to be there.
Yeah.
So now maybe I wouldn't, and I always have this thing. Look, we had a great defender in Ireland one time, an idol of my own called Paul McGrath, and one time he said that I don't like defending, or I don't like heading balls on Friday. So in other words, this was a bit of a feel of that. People weren't really that committed. It was a pre-season friendly. So I think there is enough, maybe in the sense of attack-wise, that we could get out of it. But defensively, you'd want to be really tidying up, and you want to get tidying up quick. And Ben White, bring him in, give him matches, put Tierney beside him, and see can we solidify that defense and build from there. Yeah.
You're making a very good point, Des. I mean, it gives me the same sort of thought of what we went through last season from Leno to Xhaka and a goal. So I mean, we've seen that quite a bit today in this match. From Leno to Xhaka, a mistake is made, and then either a shot at goal, and I mean there was a goal in Abraham that scored the first goal.
Well, guys, I mean, yes, that is it. I mean, it's irony, isn't it? I mean, I would have took the 13 million for Xhaka to go to Roma, but of course he scores a goal for us today, so that's going to make the contracts. I mean, he's going to sign a contract for us again, and I can't see him going anywhere, even though I want him gone. Yeah. I want Kroenke out, I want Granit out. There's a load of players I want out. But before I talk about the game, can I just say I think it was an amazing charity that they chose, and I hope the charity, the Mind charity, does well out of it. Mental health is a very, very rife thing these days, and I think it's a very, very, very poignant charity, to be honest with you. But let's break the game down to you and my two Celtic brothers. The truth of it is, right, the engine room at Arsenal, the midfield, is broken. Well and truly smashed to pieces. Okay. Leno, hate him being in goal, but Terry, you'll remember, and Glenn, you'll probably remember as well. I was saying for half of last season I want Leno gone. Yeah. I totally agree with what Terry has said about and Tim have said about Leno. I don't rate him at all. I've got a concern about Holding. He was out of position for most of the first half. Well, all the first half, really. Yeah. What else? Let me think. Bellerin got an assist. Shame it wasn't for our team, but he got an assist. The only assist that might be the only assist he gets all season. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, as well, Partey is a worry. I mean, I've said for a very long time I don't rate Partey, but I thought he started really, really well today. But then what happens? He goes and gets injured. He gets injured too easy. Okay, and I think this season Partey has to justify his price tag, and it's not a very good start. Okay, I do think that Ben White will improve the team defensively. Emil Smith Rowe played out of his skin today, to be honest. I think him and Tierney and Partey till he went off were probably the best players on the pitch. And the other disappointment, Auba. Here we go.
Oh, man.
Now, I'm going to enforce this now, right? I'm going to enforce it. He's lost his pace. He doesn't know. He doesn't know more than one way to attack by the looks of it. Yeah. We now, as much as we need to build on the midfield, we need a striker. We definitely need a striker. Okay. And that's how I feel about the game. But to be quite honest, right, I don't want to go too heavy on it because it's a friendly. And if it was a league game, we'd be ripping it to shreds, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But as a friendly game, it was just a run out, wasn't it? Let's be honest, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, Arteta again did his 70-minute substitutions. What's it about 70 minutes that he always substitutes? You know what I mean?
Yeah, fully.
You know what I mean? 70 minutes. Oh, God. Oh, there's 20 minminutes to go. I better substitute. He could have brought Holding off in the first 10 minutes because of how bad he was. You know? Yeah. I mean, you'll be able to expand on it because you always can, but we haven't changed since last season the way we're playing. And I think you're right there.
I think it looks exactly like it did last season. It doesn't look to have improved one iota. And all these players that we see on the Arsenal website, these roundel games where they're a metre away from each other and they're doing this quick stuff. Well, that's all well and good when you're playing 5-a-side and 6-a-side. But when you're on a proper big soccer pitch, physicality, pace, vision, all those things matter. And we didn't have it. I'm afraid, was it for the first goal, the Chelsea player dribbled round Holding as if he were just a bollard. He just went, Holding just stood there and he went round him. And as you say, Auba was shocking. Absolutely. Do you know what? I read Sol Campbell's autobiography, and what he said was very interesting. He said, when you're a defender and you face a new attacker, they sometimes trick you because you aren't used to the little tricks they have, the drop of the shoulder, moving this way and that way. But he said you file that away in your defender's brain, and never again will that attacker use that trick on you. So I think a lot of defenders have worked out Auba. They've worked him out.
I agree.
And missed a few really good chances there. Do you know what? I'm sorry, Arsenal, but I would sell Auba now. You'll get big money for him. Don't wait another season. He was poor last season. I know his health had issues. I think his mum wasn't well and all that. But I can see a drop in his standards. And also people have worked him out. So move him on. He'll do very well in any of the European leagues. Move him on, get big money and buy an up-and-coming star that is fresh. Nobody knows his tricks. Nobody knows the sort of stuff he does. So I'm afraid if I was Arteta, I would be very worried now. I would be very worried that we looked distinctly average. Now, as Tim said, absolutely rightly, when push comes to shove, at the end of the season, Chelsea are going to be there or thereabouts. They're definitely going to be in the top 3, I'd say, possibly top 2, and they might even win it. So if you've got some loose change and you want to put it on, if you can get good odds at this start of the season, Chelsea wouldn't be a bad bet.
Yeah. And another thing, one other thing, we're like a combo act here, me and Terry. But one other thing that I said is that last year, we finished reasonably well, and a big factor, but a factor in that was rising tide raises all ships. But Pepe kind of finished reasonably well. What I saw there today, we're watching at one stage. Do you know that right-hand side of the box cutting in? At one stage, late on, I said, "Oh my God, we have a goal coming here." He's teed it up, and next thing he rolled the ball, and it's like you were talking about Sol Campbell there. He pretty much just rolled into the centre half. I mean, you wouldn't have to be Sol Campbell to defend this. I mean, myself and Terry, I don't know what our combined age is, but we would have definitely got out to a ball if someone actually did the ball rolling it. So that was it. He was really back to Pepe of kind of mid of last season around Christmas, when he was making naive kind of Joe, at the time, I remember being on, I'd say with Alex, and someone saying like that his self-esteem looked really low. He looked to have zero confidence. And today, now I'm not saying I'm sure his confidence is fine, but it looked like his concentration. It reminded me of that famous incident with David James. Remember David James one day, all the goals, and next thing it came out that he was on Nintendo all day or something. Yeah. I was wondering, was Pepe on Nintendo for a good part of the morning or something like that?
I must agree with that, because Pepe, his facial expression, and obviously I'm in teaching and so is Tim, we get used to reading children's facial expressions. And Pepe always looks to me as if somebody's just given him a slap, and he's no idea who's done it, and he's still thinking, who did that?
Yeah, like someone's come up behind him and slapped him on the back of the head.
Yeah. And he's got this like mouth open, eyes wide open. Who did that? And then you're going, kick the ball, will you?
Well, no, I will put in the one caveat. Is that him, Smith Rowe, and Saka, 8 games into the season, they could become a real attacking force. And I mean, Aubameyang possibly is over the hill. So that's the one thing I would be. He's like but if you got them 3 lads moving ball, creating space, but I have a little fear. Have Arsenal really got someone like to put the ball in the net, the half chances? If Pepe, Saka, Smith Rowe, if they start creating chances, if they're starting putting balls flying across, have we really got? Because Aubameyang doesn't look like the player he was 2 years ago. Like last year, he had a very bad year.
He's never in the box, Tim. He's never in the box. He never makes it. So he's not going to score, is he? You know, I mean, we're just saying it right here, guys. It's not like we're just pulling out the air because we want to say things. What we're saying is the absolute truth. The man, right? We got him to sign the contract, and he's never been the same.
I mean, I know.
Go on.
So, but actually, he was. I remember like seeing him, and I remember kind of saying, "So, like, we have this." Although, as Terry would tell you, I have another sport I have a mad passion for. But like, there's no substitute for raw speed. You know, raw. Like, he can take you on. He's hitting for 6th, and you're searching around 3rd gear. Like, you know what I mean? But like, that's gone now. Like, even though it was one-dimensional, and you'd say good defenders would be able to defend, but like, he has even lost that now. It's not even the case of they're reading him that well. It's just that maybe he has to reinvent himself, and to reinvent yourself, that involves real intellect and real hard work.
Yeah.
So,
at one point, the commentator made a comment. If he gets 1 goal, then the next one will come. And I mean, he's played 4 preseason matches. This is his 4th. Eddie Nketiah has scored twice in the 4 games that he's played. Is that the case, Des, that he will maybe change in terms of scoring just 1 goal to build up his confidence? I mean, he is a confident player, but for not scoring, will a goal really burst his confidence? I don't think so.
I think he's shot. I think he needs to see a psychiatrist, to be honest.
His head on straight.
I'm just to get his head on straight, because his mind's. It's as if his mind's not on football.
Yeah,
and
you always make always an example of his golden Lamborghini. If you put his golden Lamborghini behind the post, do you think he will score?
Yeah, I mean, the thing, we've had this happen before. When you give these players a career-ending contract, because that's what they gave Özil, a contract he could retire on. They've done exactly the same to Oba, and it is a mental thing. Suddenly you relax, mentally you relax, and certainly physically he's lost that yard of pace. And to quote Arsene Wenger used to say, I can train all kinds of things into players. I can make them positionally better aware. I can make them improve their on-ball skills, all of that, but I can't give them pace. And once they start to lose that pace and defenders have worked them out, then it's looking like we see now, where Eddie Nketiah probably isn't of Arsenal standard, but he looked today and during pre-season as a better chance to score a goal than Oba did. So I really wish Arteta and his backroom team, and he's got an ever-expanding backroom team. I wish they'd look at. He's got a new department now where they take apart the stats of every game. Surely it must be. We can see it with our eyes. Surely you can see that Ober's lost something, and figure out what it is. And I personally think, as Des says, he's lost that yard or two of pace, and a bit like Ozil, he's now going to retire a very, very rich man. And, you know, a bit like in tennis sometimes, the real top tennis players are not playing for the money. They're playing because they want to win Wimbledon or the Grand Slam. They want to get that. And if you lose that passion, that you're not doing it for the money, you're doing it because you want to be a great player. And I think Ober's lost that. I think the money has got in the way. He can buy anything in the world. He can go anywhere in the world. And suddenly he looks a fraction of the player. And it doesn't bode well, because the transfer window closes in less than a month now. So Arsenal have got to make a decision very quickly. If they're going to sell him and get someone in, they'll still get big money for him. And that will enable them. I know they're looking at a guy for Inter Milan.
Yeah, he looks good.
Yeah, he's supposed to be good. Martinez. You know, they've got to do some wheeling and dealing. And personally, I've loved Ober, but I've got an awful feeling he's just beginning to turn, and it might be time to cash in.
Money is. Can I just say something? Money has destroyed his career. Money has destroyed Ober's career. And I'm not joking. Today, if Martinelli had been on the pitch, I think we could have won it, because he would have got to the ball. He would have got to the balls that Ober couldn't. So if
could have given a more goal threat, you're right.
Yes, yeah, totally. And one more thing I'm glad of. Tel, you'll appreciate this. I'm glad that the Goodyear blimp wasn't on the pitch this game. The old W, man. The Goodyear blimp, you know, with the fanny pack, you know, the bum bag. He wasn't on the pitch, at least, you know.
It brings me to a point, Altal. You said it now, Tim. Can we afford to buy more players without offloading some?
That's a big problem. Like the Goodyear blimp, as he's called, and Aubameyang. I mean, there's going to be a certain amount of reinvention here. I mean, I often think, you know, Cristiano Ronaldo, greatest player possibly of a generation. He was really, and people always know, my own son, all the people of that generation see him as a centre forward. He started off out in the wing. Even Thierry Henry started off out in the wing. So that's the type of thing probably Arsenal are going to have to end up doing. And unfortunately, with Aubameyang, he's going the other way. But you know what I mean? But like centre forwards, people that get goals, they're priceless. I mean, I know with that Arsenal are trying to play this almost Man City type football of 10 midfielders, and we're all ticky-tacky our way up and down the field. But ultimately, I don't think we have the players to do that. So we have to have a goal scorer. We have to have people creating chances for that goal scorer. And it's coming to say that Arsenal now have to look like Bellerin. Look, the Roma thing didn't work out for Xhaka, but if you could get rid of Bellerin, like as Des said there, I mean, he's already got his first assist in the season. But that's what he is. He's a liability. If you have White and you have Tierney and they're coming out with the ball and he's in that defence, you're still highlighting a weakness. And actually, as we all possibly know from all our playing or coaching days, is that if you have one weakness in a strong defence, then you can be guaranteed that's where the opposition are going to go. And like all the analytics now, it's different from the days of old. Like, I mean, I remember back to, I suppose, well, everyone in Ireland remembers it in '89 when Arsenal went to Anfield. That remember that was an unbelievable Arsenal or unbelievable Liverpool team. But remember that George Graham, he stuck in David O'Leary. He stuck in an extra defender, and the idea was to soak it up. In other words, to kill the opposition's momentum, to quiet these creative players. But like at the moment, what we have trying to kill the opposition, our central midfielders, our defensive central midfielders, they're not doing that. And if you have Bellerin as one of the fullbacks, then it further exposes. It weakens you very much so. And like goals are hard to score. Goals, and if you were giving away a goal then you have to get 2 to go ahead again. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's what I would. I mean, I was very happy with Arsenal towards the end of last season. I have to say that I know. Look, the thing with the I'm going to call it the UEFA Cup, but whatever it's called now. But that worked out poorly for us. But ultimately, we went on a bit of a run. We looked to have that. Like, I mean, Saka is coming back now. I know the thing didn't go well for him in the final itself, but like, he is one of the top players in Europe now. You'll be putting him into the middle of your team. If you could get him, Smith Rowe, get some more creativity, you never know where you'd finish up. But I would be concerned that we have players that looked peripheral, looked stagnant toward the end of last year. But as Terry has pointed out, these are players that are on big money, and look, it's the gravy train they're on, and they have no interest. Their idea is just keep cashing those checks. That's their main motivation, unfortunately. But look, like I said a month ago, and if you could get another good striker, or maybe even look at some of the players we have. I mean, Martinelli. It's funny there, Des. I'd kind of forgotten about Martinelli over the summer, but like, he was brilliant towards the end of last year. You'd imagine you'd be giving him. Look, we'll give him 4 matches now. Joe, say something like that. Joe, I was hard on him. Like, do they not have a kind of? I mean, the players themselves have the discussion. But did someone not sit down towards the end of last season and say to Arteta, look, that young fella there, he was going well. You should have used him more. Start off next year. Try and boost his confidence. Forget about boosting the guys that have stagnated. Boost the young fella if he's willing to buy into the system. Because ultimately, it comes down to coaching and coachability. If you have a good coach and he can address players that are willing to implement his plan, then ultimately you could be successful with the present Arsenal squad. So now I understand, Glenn, I'm after going very much around the original question you asked, but I feel the Arsenal squad is reasonably strong. I feel a few small additions would improve it, but ultimately he wants to start building the thing around the Smith Rowes, the Sakas, and if White and Tierney could work out, you'd never know where you'd finish up. That would be my belief.
Des, you want to say something?
Just quickly, right? We need an Irish right back. Okay, we do need an Irish right back. Just even if it's just for the crack and the luck, right?
Sign me up.
Right, so I'll get on to him. But I want to make 2 quick points. Okay, we can't play out the back with Bellerin. Yeah, and something I noticed about Chambers today, and I rate Chambers, but if you get on the inside of Chambers, you beat him.
Yeah, it's gone.
And one thing I want to say about Arteta before you go on to your next point, Glenwyn, he's got to stop trying to be everybody's friend. So what I mean by that is, if he's not happy with the way Auba's playing, put him on the bench. It doesn't matter how much he sulks, spits his dummy out. Put him on the bench. Yeah. Put Martinelli on. Yeah? Stop trying to keep the fans happy to the degree where we're not winning. Keep the fans happy by doing what's right to get Arsenal winning. Yeah? Willian, you give him a contract. Sorry, the Goodyear blimp. You give him a contract, right? That must have had in the writing, you will play so many matches, right?
Yeah.
Don't be putting this into people's contracts because you're committed. And if that player doesn't live up to that commitment, it makes you look bad, and people are going to be saying in the first 10 games, if we don't score so many points, Arteta's got to go. I mean, there's a question for you guys, yeah, and you, Glenwyn, yeah. In the first 10 games, realistically, how many points do you want Arsenal to have? Because if we don't reach the scores that you guys say and I say, yeah, Arteta should be gone in the first 10 matches.
Yeah.
And I'm not an Arteta out. But Tel made a very good point when we were talking before we started coming back onto podcasts. We got the feeling that Arteta's given up. Do you remember, Tel, when we were talking about it?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's realised that the way forward is to have a rich oligarch, and you can cherry pick the best players. I mean, he's obviously good friends with Pep Guardiola, worked with him for a long time. And Pep's no fool. Every club he's gone to, he's been able to basically buy some of the world's best players. And if you don't do that, it's all over. And I don't know if you saw recently the group of group of chairmen who decided to try and form this breakaway Super League, they are still a legal entity. People think it's all over. It's not. They are still a legal entity, and there's no doubt within the next 2 years that's going to start again. They'll get it through this time, and I think the reason why we're paying big money for players at the moment, I think Arteta knows you can't continue with it like this, but he's going to play it out, because at worst he gets the sack and sails off into either working alongside Pep again or working for maybe a Spanish team or a Basque team. But I think Stan Kroenke is realising that probably we need to be in the first 4 or 5 in order to be valid as a top club. So he's going to spend enough money to try and get us into that top 4 or 5. It's not looking good. I'm sure White is a good player, and yes, we've got Tierney, but most of our best players at the moment are young players. They are the Sakas and the Emile Smith-Rowes and the Martinellis, and that's very worrying, because our forwards, 2 forwards, are either 30 or 32. Now, where's the young forward coming in there that's quite experienced at maybe 25? We haven't actually got any. So there's a massive gap there. And you know what? It's funny that Arteta, being a midfield player, it seems the weakest part of his managerial skills is building a good midfield. And it's interesting, George Graham, who used to be a forward, he was best at creating a wonderful defence. So it's funny how they all, and Wenger, he was wonderful as a centre-back, but he was actually better as a manager at creating a forward line. And it seems this midfield thing is a blind spot for Arteta. He can't get it right. And however many Ben Whites and Tierneys he has, if he hasn't got a shield, there was no shield there today. And if he hasn't got a shield, teams are going to just stand on the halfway line. I mean, Havertz is fast. Timo Werner's fast. They're just going to, the ball's going to be played sooner or later into green grass, and they're going to race onto it, pass between each other, and straight into the roof of the net. So it's not looking good, but I don't want people watching this to think, oh, well, I'm going to switch off Arsenal. Of course not. We're going to maintain being Arsenal fans regardless. And I really hope Arteta does turn it round, because I think he has the makings of a wonderful manager. But my God, he needs an old head alongside him, and he needs somebody to say, look, for the first 4 games of the season, number 1, don't let in any goals, because football's a low-scoring game, as Italy proved and England proved in the Euros. If you don't let in any goals, you can go a long way in football. So don't start letting in goals, and we already are letting in goals. Get that defence, get that midfield block sorted out, the shield, and then you can have your centre midfielders pressing forward and etc. But at the moment, I don't think they know where Partey's best position is. It certainly hasn't worked, because he looks one pace, and he's neither a box to box or a defensive midfielder. I don't know what he is, and it's not looking good. And I don't know whether Arteta holds a lot of the power to himself, but he needs somebody outside, like coming at it from another angle, to say, like we're doing now, look at it from another point of view, because at the moment it's not working. I followed them during pre-season, Glasgow Rangers, all those matches. It doesn't look good, and as Tim said earlier, quite rightly, we look like we looked last season at our worst moments. It looks like a repeat pattern.
Yeah, and it brings me to a point of you saying that the midfield or the youngsters that Arteta wants to build a team around. Is it perhaps that why they giving Granit Xhaka a new deal? Could that be one of the reasons why a deal is imminent, Tim?
Yeah, well, I have this theory on this actually. That's a long-standing theory. I'm kind of very pro Granit Xhaka. He reminds me of Irish midfielder one who called Andy Townsend. Kind of maybe not a great player, but kind of maybe would do, and not a bad fella around the dressing room, that kind of a fella. But the one thing I think that he does do, because partly, they paid so much for this guy that he nearly has to play, and he is a central midfielder. But I would really be looking at putting kind of, or maybe not Holding now, but maybe we'd say put White, Xhaka, Partey, and we'd say that who's that fourth, who's going to be that second centre back, or who's going to be the fourth person in that defensive role, like, and you like me and see, can you get a bit more out of Partey, because ultimately he was the big signing. He no more than Pepe was I suppose it was the year before, I think, and that they would be that you have to at some times you have to say, well, I have to get it out of these guys. Like, I mean, and that I know we've been maybe kind of giving out about Arteta there for the last few minutes, but it should be remembered that he did bring Pepe around towards the end of last year. Towards the, like, he did finish strong. Martinelli finished strong. Smith Rowe, so he did get that creative midfield kind of that end of the thing working. Now, one thing I admired about Arteta was last year. I remember we were at home and we were watching matches here. And we, as I was telling Terry, we watched it on what's called it's a 5 minutes time TV, also known as Now TV. But we were watching it and we were saying like that the day of the North London Derby, that was a big match for Arteta. Arsenal were a bit up and down at the time. Next thing, your man arrived late. He was captain. No way. He left him off. And I'm wondering, has he that strength of conviction today? 6 months later, would he do that now? Would he have the confidence in the squad, the confidence in his own ability, and would he have the mental strength to say, no, you are not playing, you are not buying into this system. I want this system. You are not buying into it. And he wasn't that day. And actually, the funny thing about it is they played really well that day. Another thing actually is that I think actually Arsenal have been, I feel, Joe, do you remember last year around Christmas, I'd say maybe between Christmas and New Year, Arsenal played Chelsea. Arsenal weren't going that terribly well at the time. Next they played Chelsea around St. Stephen's Day or the day after, and they bet them up like 3-1. And like a lot of those Chelsea players that went on and won the European Cup after were playing that day. So maybe I would say you can only beat teams so often, and the big clubs, Joe, you have to keep it in. So maybe getting a defeat for Chelsea today mightn't be that bad if we can bounce back and kind of dominate. And but we have them early in the season. Terry was saying that we have them in the first 4 or 5 matches. So like I wouldn't mind conceding today if we could win when it really matters. Des made the point there that it'll all come down now. Brentford, although I don't like the idea of Friday the 13th is a great starting point, but overcome that will be the one. The anger will be out that night if Arsenal aren't performing, because people will say, look, we've been getting ready, we've the money spent, White has arrived, Tierney has arrived, or Tierney is beside him, we have our defence, we're going to try and get this central midfield sorted out, and we have creativity. We want to be putting down a marker that night, getting a good win and working towards that, because ultimately I think they have another friendly next week, but all those friendlies are very much like the 70th minute substitutions. I know they irritate people, but as I suppose and I do a bit of coaching myself, as any coach will tell you, particularly in matches like that, run them on, because you have to keep the squad developing. It's not all about the big days, and you have to really, like the big day for Arteta is that Brentford match. If they can win that night, he has himself, and if he can win that, like the one thing that concerned me most about Arsenal towards the back end of last year, when they actually were really kind of playing well, had a couple of good wins, remember, against Palace and a couple of teams like that later on, where actually, remember they went through a spell there, they just couldn't keep a clean sheet. Mother divine. They just couldn't, whatever was wrong with Arsenal. And like, that's what I hope we're not going down that road again, because as Terry was pointing out, and like, I mean, I loved the attack. Like, I mean, obviously here in Ireland, we had the vested interest. Well, we have a vested interest, but we won't say it. But in the Euros, when we hadn't. Ireland weren't in it. But like people in Ireland, we fell in love with these Italian central defenders. They represented that whole, as we call it in Ireland, give it a lash. Irish people love giving it Irish people love being on the lash, and Irish people love giving it a lash. So that mentality was epitomized by these two aged central midfielders, and look, they got it over the line, they got the business done, and actually psychologically, which is where this, as someone says, that's where the game is played now, is your team psychologically in the right place. England, the day of the final, they got their goal. Next thing they went up, Next thing, the Italians proved that psychologically they were better prepared and they got over the line. And why did that? Because they anchored it on a good defence. And that's what Arsenal needs to do now, is get back to a good defence and build from there. That's my thought kind of in the season ahead.
Well, it's interesting there because Des was saying that psychologically there's something wrong with Oba. He's not on his game. Listen, look, if he was playing football to earn money, he's now guaranteed the money. He could down tools like Ozil did, and he's going to be so rich beyond his wildest dreams. Well, if we've ended up with buying another player like that, it's a disaster. So now we're going to find out, is he playing only for the gold Lamborghini, or is he playing for the greater glory, which is in his hands, of being, we could have a statue outside the stadium in a few years' time. He could be, a real legend for Arsenal. Single-handedly, he won us the FA Cup 2 seasons ago. But you've got to build on that. But you're 32. So you've now got, Vardy's beginning to slow and he's 35. So if Oba really goes for it, let's find out mentally, is he ready for this? If he's not, and you would only know that by talking to him and watching him training, then I'm afraid he has to go and get in a 24, 25-year-old, mid-20s striker who's new to maybe the EPL, that people don't know his tricks, because we can't carry on losing the way we did today. Yes, it could have been 2-1, 2-2. It could have been all kinds of, but at the end of the day, we were well beaten. Larraped. Yes. It was a larraping.
Yeah.
So any cockneys will know that phrase. We got larraped, lads. Spanked.
It brings me to a very controversial statement that a lot of fans has made, or a lot of media has made, about Ben White's number. What does it mean for William Saliba, Des? Because he's contracted with this number, and after all, we've paid 50 million for Ben White, and all of a sudden he gets the number 4. How does Arsenal make business in terms of what their ethics are? And it's a youngster. He's been there 2 seasons and hasn't played a professional game for the seniors, and now they're taking his number away and giving it to Ben White. What does that mean for William Saliba? Right.
Before I answer that question, everything that we talk about today, I'm just saying this to the viewers, is just opinions. We all love Arsenal, but we're going through a hard time at the moment. And between the lot of us, we've supported Arsenal for nearly 200 years. Do you know what I mean? If you added up the amount of time we've been watching Arsenal, yeah? But going back to your question, okay, I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it. I don't think Saliba will put an Arsenal shirt on again. And I don't want that. I want him to play for Arsenal. But I know they've given the number 4 to Ben White. A number is just a number. If Saliba comes back, he can put on another shirt with another number on it. Okay? But I genuinely think we've missed a trick with this boy. If we don't get him back and play him, we've missed a trick. And we've wasted a lot of money. Yeah. Was it 27 million we paid for Saliba? I think it was, wasn't it?
Almost in the region of 30, almost 30.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. That's a lot of money to waste on a kid that's got potential. Yeah. As far as I know, he's only gone out on loan this season because he wanted to be near his family for a year. I could be wrong there, but that's how I heard about it.
Yep. Yeah, but then again, Arteta is saying he wants to be ruthless. Yes, if there's family issues, you know what I mean? You sort out the family issues.
How can Arteta say he wants to be ruthless, right, with a young lad who would be a good player on the team, yet he's not ruthless with the people that are making the mistakes?
Exactly my point. He wants to be ruthless in terms of how he manages the team and how he manages the players, but he's not making, and Terry said it earlier on, he's not making the decision to withdraw Oba and put on a Balogun or put on a Martinelli or put on a formidable striker. Being ruthless as a manager, that's not what he's showing at this point.
Well, he's not practicing what he's preaching then. And if you're using Saliba as an example to other players, that's the totally wrong way of going about it. If you want to be ruthless, right? It doesn't matter how much it hurts people. If it's for the team and to progress the team, right? You have to turn around and say, "Oi, Auba, you couldn't have barn door, mate. You're off." Do you know what I mean? Because it's better for the team.
Yeah.
You bring in players because you're trying to make it better for the team. Yeah. This is it. The team. Team is a big word. It may only be a few letters, but it's a big word. And I'm sorry, if you turn around and say, "Oh," to be honest, that statement has made Arteta look weak. If you're turning around and say, "I want to be ruthless," but you can't be ruthless with the people that are making the mistakes, that's a big part of the problem, right? And apparently now, we've brought in a free kick specialist from Manchester City, right?
Yes, sir.
Are Manchester City known for free kicks and all that? I don't think so. What is going on in the world of Arsenal? It's like, what is it?
I don't think Arteta trusts his own judgment, and that's a fatal flaw in any trainer or coach. Yeah. And he made a massive mistake with Emi Martinez. I don't know any Arsenal supporter who would have preferred Leno over Emi Martinez. He could have said to Emi was keen to play for Argentina the following year and in the South American Championship. So he could easily have said to Emi, "Look, stay till Christmas and I'll make a final decision then." But he let him go for what now appears to be a song. We're now trying to get a substitute England goalkeeper for 30 million when we let Emi go for 17 million. It's crass. And then, and I'm sorry about Saliba. I followed his career very, very well. He was a bit like Virgil van Dijk. Nobody ever dribbled past him. His stats were absolutely wonderful. And when Arsenal signed him, he had the tragedy of his mum dying. So that was enough for any young fella. Yeah, I think he was 19 at the time. He had all of that tragedy going on. And then Arsenal loaned him back to Saint Etienne. And at the end of the loan, when he was due back to Arsenal, the following day, Saint Etienne, small club in France, were due to play in the French FA Cup final. I think they're playing PSG. They're playing a big team anyway, big French team. And he said, "Please, can I play? It's my hometown club. Can I play? I know technically I should be back at Arsenal. Can I just play the next day? Can you extend the loan by 1 day?" And Arsenal refused. And Saint Etienne lost the final by 1 goal. It was only 1-0 to whoever they were playing. And people say that if this young man had been playing, he could have been instrumental in his home team winning a trophy that they probably hardly ever won before. All of that's going on, and I suspect this young fella has bitten back at Arteta. He said something he probably shouldn't say. Now, what you do if you're a mature man or a mature coach or a mature teacher is you don't bite that thing. You don't bite back because it's a kid. It's a kid who's upset. He's lost his mum. His team's lost the cup final. He's feeling guilty. Allow him to F and blind or do what he likes, and then when he's calmed down, put your arm around his shoulder and do whatever you need to do. But by then, I think he'd lost Saliba. He'd lost him, and in a way, you can see Saliba's point of view. When they get him back in a year's time, there'll be 2 years left on his contract. Now, that's the time you sell players. So then Arsenal might decide, well, he's done a wonderful thing. Nobody dribbles past him. He's still a fantastic player. He heads all the balls away. All the stats are fantastic. And they say to Saliba, "Okay, we're going to get you to sign an even better contract." Well, if I was Saliba, I'd say, no, I'm not doing it. Sell me. And that's pure mismanagement of a young 19-year-old lad that needed an arm around his shoulder. You don't come hot and heavy with these kids. Come hot and heavy if you've got some mature pros that are giving you trouble, then square up to them. And by the way, go on, yeah.
I was just going to say, we would have got years out of Saliba as well. If we'd have treated him right, we would have got a good number of years out of Saliba.
Yep. Yeah. No. Yeah. We've made a massive error there. And listen, I like Arteta. I like the way he goes about setting the teams up, but he's got massive faults. Unfortunately, I think he will eventually be a good coach. But we saw today that defensively, Arsenal were an utter shambles. That you can't get round that if they look back at it defensively. Tim and I were watching it, and these Chelsea forwards were running into acres of grass.
And they looked, and like, everyone remembers David Beckham and these long but like the ball, anyone could put in these great passes this evening, because you'd all day to look at it. I mean, I often highlighting, remember the famous pass? We'd say, Bergkamp passed it to Henry, and Henry passed, and he was against Newcastle, and those two passes, everyone said, they were great passes. But the passes today look like those, because the reason they look like those passes is that Arsenal were they were in each other's way. That Chelsea had these Germans, like, I don't want to be derogatory, these Germans, they're European champions, they won the European Cup only last May, so they're not bad players. But like tonight, or today, they looked unbelievably talented. And like that, you must remember now, Frank Lampard bought these players in. And do you remember the Harry Redknapp, was it, went on the television? Oh, he was on about the Germans couldn't do this, the Germans couldn't do that. But by God, they look like they could do a fair bit today.
But I think they can, man.
Yeah, but I think we made them look good, and we have to start with kind of look. Now, the one thing I will say for Arteta, like, I was very happy with Arteta towards the last 7 or 8 matches last year. I feel, Villarreal, after Villarreal, I felt we went on a bit of a run. Then we finished up the season reasonably well. I finished up. Do you remember? I remember saying, this wasn't a bad finish to the season. There could be a lot to come next season. Was my thoughts. But I remember about a month before they went on that run, and I'd say it was Terry, or maybe it was Des, or it was someplace on one of the shows. I spotted someone made the comment that Arteta has been allowed now to develop for about a year and a half, and maybe even more, but definitely a year and a half, in empty stadiums. So in other words, there was no one roaring. There was no chanting from the terraces being critical. All his mistakes kind of went, I won't say unpunished, but if you could avoid social media, he really got a great opportunity. But as I noticed today, and Terry, I was taken aback, unbelievably taken aback with the crowd that was at that match today. So those crowds, that's the future now. It's going to be packed stadiums. And people that are going to be very quick to share their opinions.
They will feel the pressure even more going forward.
How will Arteta cope with the crowds this season? Because they ain't going to say.
You will feel the pressure more. Yeah. Which brings me to my last segment of the show. If we look at the fixtures, I mean, I want you guys to be on the record. We've got Brentford, Chelsea, Manchester City, Norwich City, Burnley, and Tottenham. That's our first 6 games of the season. Brings us to December. Where do we find ourselves mid-season, Terry?
Well, I personally don't think we'll be in the top 4 at Christmas. I really don't. I've said this all along. There's too many teams that are better than us. Liverpool are better than us, and they're going to improve. Man City are better than us, and they're going to improve. Man United, unfortunately, they're not. They're followed very strongly in Ireland. They're going to improve. Tottenham are not going to get any worse. So I really can't see us being in anywhere near the top 4 by Christmas. Now, if we're in the top 6, but we're only trailing by a point or 2, Arteta might save his job. But if we are adrift by 5 or 6 or 7 points, then the pressure is going to build. And I think, I hate to say this because I do like Arteta, and I think he's going to be a good manager one day, but I think the pressure may tell and he'll get sacked. Goodness knows what Kroenke does then, because it's going to cost him even more. As I said earlier, this spending spree that we've only just started going, and I think we'll spend a lot of money between now and when the transfer window closes. I think this is Kroenke thinking well, I don't want to pay Arteta off and get in a really expensive coaching. So I'll give Arteta some money and see if he can pull the team round. But at the moment, I worry that there's something he can't seem to motivate over. He doesn't need to motivate Emile Smith Rowe because he's a young lad. He's bursting to get out and play. So you don't have to motivate those. But some of the old hands, you've got to motivate them. And the team didn't look motivated. And the bit that sticks in my mind is at half-time when our goalie Leno is walking off with Kai Havertz. They're having a friendly chat like two old mates. Well, I'm sorry. You might think it's a friendly match, but for every Arsenal person out there, you want to win it. I would be doing my nut in the dressing room if I saw one of my players beaten by an opposition player and going off the pitch laughing about it. What's that? That's that. Yeah. I tell you, I wouldn't have Leno. I probably would have him playing again, but I would rip him off so much in front of his teammates that he would want to take a swing for me. Well, fine, do it, because I will be so passionate. I know I read the Theo Foley autobiography, which is George Graham's right-hand man. And he said in the dressing room, sometimes Theo Foley was about 5'7", wet, even if he was soaking wet. And he went for Justin Fashanu. He went for all these big guys. And sometimes you've got to lay. Not often. If you keep doing it, it's hopeless. But every now and again, you've got to say, this is the line and you've just crossed it. And that way you get the players' respect. I hated what I saw. I don't know what other Arsenal people thought, but I don't care whether it's a friendly or a kickabout in Finsbury Park. I'm not having this business of losing and laughing about it. It's not a funny business. We've got 1 or 2 games and then we're at Brentford. And as you saw there, we've got some really big matches coming up in the first 6 matches. And you can't suddenly switch this on. It's a bit like teaching a class of kids and saying, well, the real work starts next week. So when I give you some work to do, don't worry if you get the answers right or wrong. It doesn't really matter. If they don't switch on, then you're not going to switch them on when it's the real thing. They've got to play every situation, whether it's pressure or no pressure, as if they're busting a gut. We all did that as kids. I know we were all probably kids kicking a ball around the street. You never wanted to lose. There were fights if your team let in a goal. So why do we have 2 players who, I know they're both German and they're both mates, but I'm not having this business about let's have a bit of a laugh and a joke. No, I'm not having that. And I'm afraid in the dressing room, I would have been hopping up and down in anger.
Tim, where do you see our team next season? You're on the record for this one.
Yeah, well, just for the record, I suppose, look, Arsenal are a big club, always have been a big club. I suppose the biggest club in London, really. But the problem is that there's a lot of real quality opposition out there. You have, let's say, Man City and Chelsea contested the European Cup final only a couple of months ago. They're going to be featured prominently. Man United are kind of, very strong. Now, I would disagree with one thing, Terry. I think we are better than Tottenham. I still think
Good man, Tim.
Good man. But I think we are. I think there's enough there. But I would be concerned that the transition is over. Arteta has got his season now behind closed doors. He's got his players in. They have to perform. I mean, you're talking about. I mean, he has to. Just to put a number on it now, I'm not going to put him on, but Brentford, was it Brentford, Chelsea, Man City, and Norwich? You want to be getting, 2 wins and a draw?
Yeah.
Am I going to go for that?
Yeah.
So what's that? 7 points. Well, you wanted 7 points.
By the looks of it, there's 3 wins and 3 draws. If you look at it on paper, in terms of the Chelsea, the Manchester City, and the guys down the road from you, those are the 3 teams. Tottenham Hotspur.
Oh yeah. So then, look, but I'll say one thing for Arteta. I mean, I'm kind of as Joe. I'm mad. My young fella is mad as Arsenal. Got the new Arsenal jersey today. there's the man that's getting prepared for a season ahead. But anyway, when he arrived home there about an hour ago. But I would say that the one thing about Arteta that I do like is that the London teams and the closer he's always performed. In my eyes, like I was probably said earlier, really he has a good enough record against Chelsea and Tottenham. I think he is definitely, I'd say, gathered up more points than he's lost to him anyway. So from that point of view, he's good. So I would fancy him. I'll put it this way: Brentford, Chelsea, Tottenham. We'll call it 2 wins and a draw. That's 5. That's whatever 7, and then Norwich definitely a win. 10. Man City could be tricky, all right. Now I have to say, there's no point in getting overly optimistic here, Tim. Ease it up a small bit. But I'd say 10 points, 5 matches, just off of. Now, believe me, this is the back of a fag box. People we saw calculations, but that's what I'd say. And if he got that far, but the big thing is, and I don't mean to be, I'm probably saying this as saying goes, I've said it in numerous languages and in different contexts. But after all those 5 matches, if he has a centre half, if he has defence and centre midfielders and a goalkeeper, and they've kept a couple of clean sheets and they've only conceded 1 to go, then you're going someplace. Yeah. Then you're talking, well, look, I've that sorted, we're going to get scoring now. Let's see, can we throw in? And if Aubameyang wants to join the party, he's more than welcome to. But it's a lot easier to say to a superstar, look, thanks for the memories, Sonny Jim, but like we're moving forward now. So in other words, it's much easier to do that if you are a team that are kind of, it's like success and winning are habits as much as anything else. And if you win the season and you put down a marker against a couple of London teams and you kind of nail down your defence, I'd be very, very optimistic going forward. But as Terry has highlighted there, when he was naming those teams, come Christmas, some of those teams have big, big squads, and like we have your man Thomas Tuchel there. Chelsea were in Ireland there about a fortnight or 3 weeks ago, but he looks like a guy that possibly could be, a really good manager. Like Frank Lampard now, to be honest, we obviously were watching the matches on our own terrestrial channel here, but I saw Frank Lampard was on BBC once or twice, and I'd have to say, I'm wondering about your career going forward now, like, because after you left, things got very, very rosy around Chelsea, like, so it's, as someone said, well, when you take him out and everything else was in the garden was smelling of roses, then you obviously know where the problem was. But like, ultimately, I do think Arsenal are a reasonably good team with a reasonable squad, better than, I'm going to say this just for Terry's bit of it, are better than Tottenham. And after that, now I would be undecided. So I'm saying 5 points, 10 points after 5 matches.
There you go. You see, Tim knows the vibe. Whoever you beat, you must beat Tottenham, lads. We know that. Totally. Whoever you beat, it has to be Tottenhh. But in the meantime, I would give Leno a little kicking. After I would say, let everybody else go. I just want to talk to this fella. Yeah. And I'd have my old kicking boots on. Give him a couple of cracks across his chin.
Right, before I say my piece,
where are we gonna fit?
Before I say my piece, tell Sam sends her love. She loved your rant. It was very passionate. Okay.
Lovely. Sam. Hello, Sam. How are you? How's Newcastle today? Are you there in the background?
Hello.
Where are you? Hello. How's the weather in Newcastle today?
Dull.
Oh, it's the same in Clare.
You should come to Ireland.
It's a bit like Arsenal, very dull at the moment.
Yeah. So I'm gonna throw a spanner in the works, right? You do talk a lot of sense. You do talk a lot of sense as always. But Brentford can't guarantee a win there because they're gonna want to prove something coming into the Premier League, right? Don't think we'll beat Chelsea the way we're playing at the moment. Then is it Manchester City? Nah, we're not going to beat them. No. Might beat Norwich. The one thing I will say about the first games, I mean, Tottenham I agree with Tel. We have to beat them. Apparently, we've got a friendly with them next week, right? I know it's a friendly. We have to beat them, right? If it was a game of tiddlywinks, we have to beat them, right? Okay. Do you know what I mean? Okay. If it was pin the tail on the donkey, we would have to beat them. It's just the way it is. But Brentford are going to want to prove something, so that might not be a walkover. I think the only game there really we're going to score 3 points on is the Norwich game, because they've gone and got rid of one of their best players.
There's Burnley also after.
Yeah, but Burnley, they eat wood, bricks and nails, don't they? You just don't know what you're going to get with Burnley, do you?
I've got to tell you about Burnley. I've never been to Turf Moor, their ground, but my mates who go to every game home and away, and hello to Tony and Andrew if you're watching in, they all tell me the worst ground in the Premier League for facilities for supporters is Burnley. Don't even dream of trying to get something to eat or go to the toilet or have a clean. I don't know. They just say Burnley is the pits. You just, so not only is it an awful place to go to stand and watch or sit and watch a match, but it's probably not much better for the players in the dressing rooms either. But if you can come, Burnley, funnily enough, is it Sean Dyche is the manager? Yeah. On a shoestring budget, he's done incredibly well. And they're all big guys. You've got to be a man and stand up to them. Otherwise, they'll kick you all over the place. So it's going to be a kicking fight, I think, lads.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is as well, the thing is as well, right? The way I see it is, yes, we could score points against the teams that I said we wouldn't beat, but the only positive out of it, really, guys, is we're getting those games out the way early. Do you know what I mean? But I still think.
Well, hang on a second. I'll tell you something that I've noticed. That obviously I've been following them a long time. When Arsenal were amongst the top 3 and looked like they were possible candidates to actually win the league, the team play went up 20%. Because the players are then motivated. And it was interesting today. There's been some conjecture about is Xhaka going to be offered a new contract? Isn't it interesting that he came on and he looked lively and he scored with a header? It's all about motivation. And I'm afraid these players, there's 2 ways to motivate a player. One is to say, go out and play for the club. And of course, if you're going to win a Premier League, then that may motivate them even more. Or the other one's money. And the trouble is, if they're only motivated for money, like we saw with Ozil and possibly Willian, then it'll all fall apart. It'll crumble into sand. So at the moment, if Arsenal are going to go to Burnley and beat them, it's not about money. It's about passion, and it's about how much do you want to beat these guys. Because be sure, Burnley will have a good defence. There'll only be a goal or 2 in it. Football's a low-scoring game. It's going to be a hell of a game up there. The weather's always bad. Even in the middle of summer, it's lashing rain. And so it's a tough place to go any time of the year.
Gentlemen, I'm afraid that's all we have time for. Just a couple of messages in the comments there. It's Lenny. Lenny says, good evening, gents. Des, how was your honeymoon?
Brilliant, mate.
Then he also says some wise men on the show tonight. And he's asked the question, when are we playing those chickens, midweek or next week?
Next week.
Out of 5 matches, 3 points, 2 points. Okay, the first game he says 3 points. The second game is a draw. The third game is options. Fourth game is also 3 points, and last game against the Spuds, it's also 3 points. Well, that is unfortunately just the speculations. And guys, unfortunately, we've come to a point where we have gone over the hour mark. But we've got good information from you guys. I've got good analysis from you guys, and I hope Tim and Terry, this is not the last time.
No. And we're going to splash out. we're going to get a second phone.
No expense spared, lads.
The Celtic Tiger is back in Ireland.
Yeah. So yeah, guys, again, thank you for coming on to the show.
Look at him go. Look, Des, are you all right? You nearly went over there.
I think I need some oxygen.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Guys, yeah, thanks a lot, man. It's always an honor to sit under the information of Altal. It is always an honor to hear your passion for the club, for the team, and where you come from. Tim, I've been with you on the same show of Alex Cannon Fodder, and that's where we met all. And of course, Des has been a regular on this show, and I hope you guys won't be strangers. And all the best to you guys. Tal, you still on holiday?
Yeah, well, you know, if this COVID thing carries on in London, I'm seriously thinking of staying here and annoying Tim.
Yeah. Boys, believe me, next Friday, or was it Tuesday? Sorry, we have a big game.
Oh yeah, tell him about that.
We have a match. Myself and Terry are coaching a team, so we have a big match Tuesday. So believe me, we will be very sympathetic towards Arteta towards the end of the week if we lose. We'll be thinking, oh no, it's the players are wrong. The managers do their best.
all the best to that too. As a hurling, you say it's a hurling that you guys.
Yeah, hurling, yeah. Oh, wait, let me show you. See the team up here behind us.
Hang on.
Let me show you.
Hang on, lads. We're going to show you something now. Hang on a second. This is a first on any Gooner channel. Can you see that?
Okay. Is that the full squad? Yeah, that's a big
full
squad.
From 1995. So they were the 15 greatest men that ever lined out in any field.
Yeah, you can't beat them. Even Arsenal in their pump would have trouble with those lads.
See this guy here. This guy was Alex Ferguson, Ty Cobb, Graham Henry, and several others rolled into one.
And they play in the Arsenal change kit, the traditional change kit. I turned up at a match at Arsenal wearing the Clare top, and the fellows would go, "Geez, that's a lovely top. Is it the new change kit?" I said, "No, it's County Clare in Ireland."
Can I just, Alex, before I go, can I just say a big thank you to everybody that sent me birthday messages on the 29th. I'm privileged to have you guys in my life, and I'm blessed, and thank you very much. And also, we haven't touched on them, but I do like the look of Sambi Lokonga, and I do like the look of Tavares. They look positive, and I've just got to get it in there. Hashtag bring back the Viking because the enforcer said so. Yes, got it in. And
Des,
we can end the show now.
Des, we all like the look of that wonderful wife of yours too.
Oh yes, she'd be a good right back.
Yeah, sign her up quick.
Yeah, guys, I made a promise to a friend of mine. This is his business is Too Legit at Too Legit on Facebook, and his website is toolegit.co.za. He's got his own brand, I Am brand. It's a clothing brand. Whoever is watching, you can go check it out. He's one of the guys who's starting with a good entity. It's a South African Cape Town brand, and yes, his name is Michael. Go check it out, www.toolegit.co.za, and on Facebook is @toolegit. So there you go. But yeah, guys, thank you for coming on the show again. Right. And if you have not subscribe to Gooner Matters, and of course,
subscribe
hit the bell for all the notifications and smash the like.
Do as you're told. Subscribe now.
All right. Without any further ado, keep safe, mask up, sanitize, and of course, social distance.